Hi everyone, welcome to HubShots episode 316. This is the practical guide to AI in HubSpot. In this episode, we're going to go talk about AI approach, AI basics, some of the tools, and we're going to start with a bit of a discussion around AI and how it's evolved in the last year. We actually started this episode a year ago. We're going to talk about that. My name is Ian Jacob, and with me is Craig Belly from Zen, and I'm from Search and Be Found. Craig, how are you?
Really well, Ian. And yeah, you're right. We started planning this a year ago and we kind of kept putting it off. I think why? We were just kind of underwhelmed with AI, where it was promising a lot, but not perhaps delivering enough. And it was changing so rapidly, whereas things have kind of settled down now.
So why don't we talk about the AI approach, Craig? Because things have changed massively in the last year. I think a lot of the things that they spoke about a year ago have finally come to fruition. And so we've been on that journey with HubSpot. And I think even without HubSpot, all the other tools that we use in our day-to-day. So let's talk about AI approach and some of the expectations and around governance, etc. So why don't you kick it off?
I think you're right to highlight expectations. And by the way, listeners, just so you know, in this first shot, Ian and I are going to chat for a couple of minutes, just more around opinions and high-level theory as opposed to the tools themselves. So if you're not interested in that, jump ahead to shot 2. Because from shot 2 onwards, we're just talking about the features in HubSpot. But expectations, you're right, the start of the year, people were like, oh, FOMO, real hunger for AI, show me, a lot of interest. Get to the end of the year, they're almost jaded. There's so much AI slop, social feed is just full of AI. It's kind of like, is there any business value? Plus, I think people have been burnt enough by going to ChatGPT and saying, hey, what workflows should I set up? What dashboard should I create? What lifecycle stages should I do? And getting bad advice and implementing it into HubSpot. Now they're like, oh, wow, I'm not sure what's going on. So there's a wariness around HubSpot, not around HubSpot, well, maybe around HubSpot, around AI, yes. Ian. And people are asking, is it actually providing benefit? That combined with the onslaught of updates, they're kind of, what do I choose? How do I do it? And so there is a real need to be careful and selective in the AI they put in place. But then there's also governance. And what are we talking about when we use the term governance, Ian?
So when we're talking governance, we're talking about access for individuals, data access. We're talking about how to use things, what to share, what not to share, policies around change management and how they utilize information. And I think these are actually very fascinating because I feel like if you're a smaller business, some of these things you just think don't apply. But I still think you need to be aware and understand what data you're sharing. I think when you're in a bigger organization, there is so much of protected data. And data, not even protected data, but data is everywhere, right? So generally, I find small to medium businesses, they have their data in a few places. They can generally, the tools are there to connect it. Then comes up to, well, what do we do? And then I think there's scrutiny around security in place with the larger businesses. And so this is all that drives governance and having some sort of policy and framework in place to do that.
Totally agree. And you mentioned the word policy. I'm hearing that from mid-sized businesses now, whereas previously it was just the enterprises.
True.
And at the start of the year, I remember big and small companies were handing out ChatGPT accounts and basically saying, hey, pilot, you know the word pilot, like go and pilot and see what kind of AI spaghetti gets thrown to the wall and actually sticks. And we were seeing big businesses just kind of say, oh yeah, we connected a ChatGPT account, let people play. And now they've wised up and thought, oh, hang on, when we connected it, we're actually letting anyone access just about anything through ChatGPT. And so they're locking it all down again, which is good. So governance is rolling out. And not only enterprise, but smaller business as well. So that's good to see. But it does sometimes limit things because before people were like, oh, yeah, I'll just have a play with an AI tool or feature. And now sometimes it's locked down. On the flip side, let's just talk about the Great Divide. And there's all the laggards that haven't yet embraced AI. Oh, aren't they foolish? Well, maybe not. Lots of people are in jobs, especially knowledge workers, where they've just got to get their work done. They don't have time to play with AI. And you'll see these people, and we might even think this is kind of unbelievable given the work we're in and our clients, but it's actually commonplace.
Yeah.
People are forwarding on videos to me going, this is incredible. I'm like, that's AI. And they're, what? Or they're just discovering that they can summarize an email reply or get, help preparing emails. And I'm like, okay, so we've all got to realize that just because we're maybe using AI a lot more than others doesn't necessarily mean it's the norm. That combined with the fact that there is governance and things getting locked down, often people want to play with AI in their workplace and they're not allowed to anymore. So there's this whole kind of malaise of AI unknowns that people are grappling with. And so I think just before we get into the features, let's just talk about the path forward. I mean, what should we do? We all want to be AI first companies. What's the kind of approach we can maybe consider, Ian?
So I think, Craig, like what's fascinating, and we went to I'm going to throw this in here, a Canva AI event, which I think they're holding quite regularly here in Sydney. It was fascinating to see the people that were there, the different viewpoints. And I think I quite enjoyed having a different perspective because I think we live in a very HubSpot-centric world or maybe Google-centric world, etc. When we do paid advertising and how AI is affecting that, etc. and so on. So I think one of the things we would suggest is choose a scenario in your daily process that's manual and consuming you time that you want to focus on and that can actually solve a problem for you. Set time aside each week or each day to train yourself. I think with all of this is about getting good and understanding and testing new things. One of the things I remember hearing, and you'd have heard it too when we were on at that event, was a founder of, I think it was the founder of, was it Relevance AI? And he was talking about one of his discoveries was instead of incremental change, think about you almost have to, he had a really good analogy of a car and a brake, how previously people that didn't drive when they didn't have anti-lock brakes, they had to press the brake pedal to the point where they felt it lock up and then ease off the brake, right? And he kind of described AI a bit like that. It's not this incremental pushing of the brake or acceleration. It is like you've got to go, where's that limit till something, like until you kind of come to a grinding halt, but then kind of ease back to find that position. And I feel like sometimes you've got to do that. And I feel the more immersed you become or the more things you try, the better you will gain knowledge and understanding of what's actually going on. The funny thing is the models keep changing every month. And so even that, you just see not even incremental, it's exponential features and things that can be done. So I think about that. And we'll touch some of this stuff as we're going through the scenario. And then the final things would be check your HubSpot updates regularly and return to tools that you've tried previously that you might have been a little bit say about and have a look and try them again. I think one of the things here is to don't be afraid to go back and try what you tried before, because I think you might be pleasantly surprised.
I think they're good tips. I want to pick up on one of them though, that you choose a scenario that actually solves a problem. I think a lot of the mistakes that businesses have made with their pilots is they get outside kind of suggestions on what to work on. And so they end up doing these AI pilots that actually the people doing it don't really see any value in. And it's like, oh, wow, that's nice. Wow, fun. It's not actually solving a problem. So pick something that actually does solve a problem. I'll give you an example. The company research agent? We're going to talk about this a bit later in the show.
Yes.
Where you can basically use AI to go off and research a company.
Yep.
Now, if you're in sales, preparing for a sales call, that's really valuable. But for just about everyone else in the company, there's very little value. And so you'd get these kind of pilots who are like, oh, wow, check this out. And it is pretty amazing. Goes off and does all this research and does in a minute or two what used to take hours, days or weeks, right? So you look at it and you go, oh, that's amazing. But if that's not actually solving a problem for you, then what's the value? It's fun and, it gets touted as this amazing feature, but has it actually given you business value? That's what we've got to ask. And so that's why we always go back. Does it solve a problem in your business, in your process? So pick one think about it and focus on it. And to your point about checking a HubSpot updates regularly, with that filter in mind, when you go through the updates, you're going, hang on, this is the problem I've got. Does this actually help? Let's think about a common business problem. Oh, I attend lots of meetings and then I've got to write notes afterwards. Oh, okay, that's time consuming. Oh, I have someone to help me. Oh, that's a business problem. Okay, AI is the obvious answer there. You have a meeting recorder, come in, record the call, use AI to summarize, pull out pain points, action items, etc. Perfect use case. Okay, so then when you're looking at the HubSpot updates and you see the meeting recorder beta, you're going, right, that's actually solving a business problem. We will focus on that and we will basically ignore many of the others. So that's the way to think about it. And to your point around the beta features, the tools, absolutely, because they are improving a lot. For example, the meeting recorder, we haven't switched to the HubSpot one entirely. We still use Avoma, and I know a lot of companies use others because the meeting recorder is not up there yet. It will be soon, and so we keep checking, and our goal is to just use the HubSpot one.
Yeah.
Same for other tools. You go back to them and you realize, wow, they've improved a lot, sometimes just in the space of weeks. So keep going that. And that brings us to this idea of betas. Because don't you remember the good old days, Ian, when enabling betas was just something that the geeks and nerds could look after?
Yes.
And for most users, it's like, well, we don't need to look after betas. That's for future. Now I say to everyone, you've pretty much got to be installing some of the betas. Be across the product updates in HubSpot selectively, strategically, enabling many of them, and many of them are betas. And well, why are they called betas? Well, just because they're optional, really. And maybe there's a level of quality control that hasn't been applied yet, but really you've got to be enabling them. We're almost about to start talking about features. I just want to have a little bit of a cynical take before we dive in, and that is that the platforms we use, HubSpot, of course, being the main one, just get more and more complex. Combined with AI being such a turning point in the industry, of course, AI features are getting added to HubSpot and it's becoming more and more complex. And in some ways, the irony is people are so confused and overwhelmed by the tool that HubSpot then says, oh, well, here's some AI support to help you work out how to use all the damn AI features in the product. And it just strikes me that AI was supposed to make our lives easier, Ian, but it just seems to make them more complex. Not necessarily a bad thing, but just an observation. All right, enough of the theory. Shall we dive into the actual features now, Ian?
Yes, let's do, Craig. And let's go into the AI basics. Now, the first thing is data enrichment, right? Now, this is something that as of inbound, or let's say as of September 2025, is now included in every HubSpot portal. And the enrichment pulls from data inside HubSpot's data set for contacts and companies. What I do like about it is that we've got some really cool things in there currently is to what you want to enrich, and then even things like out of office, if people get replies for out of office, etc. It'll keep that in there. I have seen, Craig, this week a large number of enrichment data deletion requests come through on different portals, and I don't know whether you've experienced any. I've never seen them before.
Okay.
And so they're coming through. So my take on that is that people are requesting, must be somewhere in HubSpot, that any enrichment of data for that contact doesn't get done. And so it basically, there is a whole separate section that looks at data requests, and it'll say that it needs to be, so you basically review it, press the button, remove the information that was enriched by HubSpot.
Interesting.
So that I've seen that across a few portals this week, which has kind of been surprising for me because I've had to do a deep dive and go, hang on, why are we getting these all of a sudden? And this is what's happening, right? There's data enrichment happening across the platform, which is then opening up other doors for other things that need to be done. So if you're not using it, use it inside HubSpot, scan your portal. It'll tell you. Now in Australia, we don't have a great contact data enrichment. Companies are not so bad. I see it getting better by the day or by the week. So definitely be using that to help you with some of that data that you could utilize in your HubSpot. And I'll tell you why this is important. you're looking at segmenting well, and I had a lot of conversation with people around segments and about email opens and about how they're communicating with people. If you're enriching your data, you can actually segment well if the data is there, right? And so think of this as another way to slice and dice your information and get a better result.
Totally agree. Industry group on the company level's the one that comes
Correct.
to mind. It's really quite often it's there and can be used for segmentation. But as you said, data enrichment is now included with paid plans, so it doesn't consume credits, but it brings us to the topic of credits and the fact that most of the AI, useful AI features in HubSpot are starting to consume credits. And if they aren't yet, because they're still in beta, then they probably will in the future. Fortunately, HubSpot does have a reasonably good way to manage your credits or see how your credits are being used. And there should be settings that allow you to limit it. We've talked about that previously. We won't go into all of that now, but you can control to make sure your credits don't kind of blow over and push you to another tier. That control is with you. And you will see little icons next to some of the features throughout HubSpot that say whether they use credits or not. But just be aware, this is another reason why you should come back and check, because sometimes they don't consume credits currently because they're in beta, but they will in the future. So potentially some surprises there. Anything you want to say about credits, Ian?
I think one of the things, it keeps getting better in terms of the management of it. So on the dashboard, when you look at the features, you can click through to those features and see on a daily basis what the credit consumption is. So you can understand. I have been caught out with the intent feature and credit consumption. And it's been an interesting few weeks with that and just understanding how it works. And I think the tools are getting better, but just be aware, I'm always now on the back foot. Well, I should say probably should be on the front foot with credit utilization and how it consumes it, especially around intent and adding companies and so on, and what you do, because you can run things in workflow actions that can all of a sudden chew up all of your credits. So just be aware, know your numbers, know what's going on, and I think you should be right.
Yeah, absolutely right. We've put a screenshot in the show notes of, is this one of your clients? And they've racked up 3,000 credits just on the intent tool.
Yes, correct.
So yeah, it is easy to run away at times. Make sure you have that option to cap your credits so it doesn't blow over.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep it going. And we're still just in AI basics, inbox automation. This used to be done the legacy way through your inbox connection. You could just turn it on. But if you've got data enrichment and a new conversational enrichment beta, I think it's still in beta. I'm not sure if that's rolled out yet, but you can turn that on. It's part of your data enrichment settings.
Yes.
You mentioned this earlier. It's got the return to office date detection. It's quite nice. Looks for that just in email replies or signatures, and can put that against the contacts. So that's good. Put that in place. What else have they got? AI summaries. They're kind of right, left, and center throughout all the objects in HubSpot. I don't think those AI summaries consume credits, do they, Ian?
No, they don't. Correct.
They're just, seeing there, the quick summary.
I think one thing I want to tell people, and you'll see wherever these AI summaries, is it in the help desk, is it on the contact the company, etc. If it's not right, I would encourage people to put the thumbs down on the summary, because that is indication back to their system or to the AI that this is not right. And so the better we can have this feedback loop, the better the system will become. So if you see something, do something is my little motto at the minute. And just make your life better and makes everyone else's life better. So look at that often.
I agree. I also like how the summaries include the sources.
Yes.
So you can just go, what? Where to get this for? I'll click through. That's where I got it. Okay.
Correct.
Great. All right. Next to mention, we're just talking about the basics here still, is Breeze Assistant. So just the assistant at the top menu bar, you can pop that down. It's a little chat interface that appears from the side.
Yes.
Later, we'll talk about you can choose which assistant, because there's the default Breeze Assistant, but you can actually plug in your own assistants from the HubSpot marketplace. And it's really got access to all your data. You just chat away and talk. I have to admit, I don't use it much. Do you use this much, Ian?
not as often as I would like to, Craig. And I
Mm.
guess I was going to ask you the question because you've got the Breeze app on your phone.
Mm.
This will be very similar to that, would it not?
Yeah, it is. It's the similar. The Breezes, the app on your phone basically taps into the same thing because you do
Yeah.
connect your portal and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's hit and miss. I think it will get better, but this is one of those tools that I've used and just had a really lackluster experience and kind of ignored.
Yeah.
And I need to train myself to come back because it does keep getting better and better.
It does.
And there's no kind of indicator that kind of, you almost need this indicator that says, hey, Craig, I know I was really terrible before, but give me another go. But yeah, it is getting better.
Yeah.
But I tend to use some of the other
Correct.
tools.
And I think these are all incremental, Craig.
Mm.
Like when I was talking to some of the product managers when I was away at Inbound, for example, there was no memory. So, you'd start a chat, you'd kind of come back or you'd ask a following question. And it's kind of lost all sort of idea of what it was doing. Now that's much better now. And so I think like we were discussing, incrementally, day after day, week after week, it just keeps getting better. So don't ignore it. Keep trying. And maybe what you should consider doing is have one prompt that you run and look at the output. Just do it every week and compare the output, right? And then you might discover something. And then maybe make it 2 prompts with the same, kind of in the same line to just see, is the memory holding in place? I mean, one thing I do like is you can add your apps in there, like your Gmail, your what do you call it, Google Drive, etc. So you can look at the data from multiple places. And I think that's probably been one of the biggest things, because I know, like, when I use Claude, like, I've got it connected to HubSpot, I've got it connected to all of my Google Drive, etc. And so when I talk to it, I kind of like say, hey, tell me about this, because we keep documents about stuff that we do with customers. And so all of that together is a really good place. It kind of brings all of that data in together into the one place and makes it able to use. So what I have seen, Craig, on lots of things is that you'll see it says at the bottom of all of these windows, it says AI generated content may be inaccurate. And I notice that's appearing everywhere, so that people are aware that there are inaccuracies. And I think this comes back to what we discussed earlier, is that you still have to know what's right and wrong. Do not assume that the AI knows everything and what you're getting is actually correct. I think this is the biggest thing that I have discovered with people. And this is what drives AI stop, right? When you know better, you will just take everything like it's gold. So be aware of that.
It does raise another point, and we probably should have addressed this earlier in shot 1 where it was a bit more kind of theory and opinion, but I saw an update recently. I blogged about it, but this idea, what's an AI first company or whatever the buzzword is, right?
Yes.
And it's really an AI first company has AI first people in it. Okay, so what's an AI first person? An AI first person is someone that has the expertise and experience to know if the output they get from AI is wrong. So the ability to fact check or error check what AI gives you. And it sounds obvious, and yet think about all the people around you that just accept whatever AI says at face value. Oh yeah, that's good. Plonk that out there. That's actually becoming the norm. And it's rare that people actually sit and go, hang on, is this correct? And they error check it. That's a skill. So cultivate that skill and error check the outputs you get. And that's really the secret to successfully using AI.
You know what I saw today, Craig, when I was training a team? In the HubSpot AI, when you can ask it to rewrite, make things shorter, etc., there was an option today for proofreading. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So that's just appeared there now. Like,
and
if you highlight,
does it do?
how you can highlight some text and then the AI thing comes up. I was like, oh, that's new. Anyway,
so what does it actually do though? What does proofreading do?
Yeah, so I think it just gives you suggestions if it's grammatically correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've kind of said before, and I'm going off on a rant here. I've said before that AI is kind of like the spell check of this decade. It's kind of like, of course it's got AI. Of course it does spell check.
Yeah.
Thing is, the difference, as someone pointed out, is that spell check checks your work. So you create the answer and then it checks whether it's actually spelt correctly. But with AI, it's the other way around. AI produces the output and it's up to us to actually check the, the AI output, whether it's correct. This whole AI generated content may be inaccurate warnings that we're getting everywhere. It's kind of like, well, of course, but we decided that that's acceptable. It also shows you the pressure that companies are under. Like HubSpot could have waited a year to roll out some of these tools when they were finally mature and providing value, but no, the pressure of the market and just the pace of change means they need to be rolling it out, and that's why there's so many betas. And unfortunately, that's the way of the world at the moment. You need to accept it. Don't fight it. All right, let's move on. HubSpot marketing feature of the week. We're going to talk about the buyer intent tool, Ian. But here's the question: is this actually AI? Or is it just that it's one of our favorite tools?
Well, there are AI parts in it, Craig, and so that's why we're talking about it.
That's
and so
right.
when we talk about marketing, I think this is one of the big things. So take it away. Well, tell me, why do we love it so much?
Yeah, well, we do love it. And there is AI, to be fair, and there's the new signals tab. But what is it, first of all, for those who haven't used it? And lots of people haven't used it. Really get onto this one, I think, especially marketers, but sales reps actually love it as well. What does it do? It just tells you which companies are visiting your website. So not the contacts, it's at the company level, and you'll get this list. Oh, these companies visited your website and they had 3 visits and this many page views. You're like, okay, wow. That's actually really useful, but it gets better because you can filter it based on things like intent. Just show me the companies that had certain characteristics. They're located here or this industry, etc. They use this technology. That's a good one. What about topics they might be researching, or, well, the pages they visited? Did they visit the pricing page? Instead of, say, the careers page? That'll very quickly show you intent, and you can look in time frames and whether they're already in your poll, etc. So this, I think, is one of the best tools that HubSpot released this year. I'm telling all our clients to use it, and when they see it, they love it, especially when they can say, oh, the intent pricing page, show me anyone that's visited the pricing page. Now, there is a research bit as well. You can kind of research and filter down from all HubSpot's database or data set of companies as well. But the real, I think, AI part of it is around signals. And this is a new tab that's appeared in the buyer intent tool, which basically provides signals about a company. So do you want to talk through this a little, Ian?
Yeah, so one of the things, what is amazing is that there are constantly new things rolling out for intent signals. And so you'll see, they've nicely labeled it in here, Craig, so you can see what signals there are. And so let me just talk about some of them. There's signals around executive hiring, funding, geographic expansion, growth metrics. Layoffs is a good one. Leadership content, mergers and acquisitions, product launches, strategic partnerships, technology, investment. And then you've obviously got research intent, and so visitor intent, job intent, and then there's stuff to do with email bounces. But there are a lot of intent signals, and this keeps getting bigger by the month, I feel, as there's more intent signals. And I think this is the thing that we have to be aware, that there is so much data out there that they're able to do these kinds of things and utilize it to do things better. So just be aware of that. So I would be checking your intent signals on a weekly or fortnightly basis to see, is there something new? And as I have discovered with some of the things, as you start to track some of these things using AI and consuming your credits, there are some intent signals you might have turned on at the start. You might want to switch those off as you continue on your path to understand exactly what is important to you. Now, a lot of us with B2B, we're not probably looking for people with funding, depending on the sectors we're in. So we might turn that off because we're not into that. So might need to figure out what's working for you and what's important before you track them.
Yeah. So with this signals tab, you basically select which companies you want to be alerted to some of these signal changes. And yeah, I think often people want, oh, tell me if there's job changes happening. Now, I don't know where they get it, Ian. Maybe they're scrolling LinkedIn or other tools. But I can see why this has a lot of potential. I will say though, I think it's your mileage may vary. I think it's a lot stronger for US companies than
Yes.
in Australia.
Yeah.
And also, I've found that even things like just company news or financial, general meetings and announcements aren't actually picked up often by this signals tool. So I can see the potentials there, but it has been hit and miss. And I know that also because some of the very companies that I'm tracking with signals, and it's giving me, no signals detected. Some of those that when I do run them through company research agent, it will pull back details. We found this about the company, or it did release this annual report, or there has been this. So there must be different AI tools or different data sets or things that it's sources that it's looking at. So just be mindful of that. Your mileage may vary, and
Craig,
but I can see where it's headed.
get this. I've just, while we're recording, I have just in the assistant, I've said, where does HubSpot get this data from, right?
Yeah.
With intent and intent
What is?
signals.
Yeah.
It says HubSpot's global intent ecosystem, research intent. HubSpot has a proprietary network of 200,000 plus websites that have the HubSpot tracking code installed and have opted in to share intent data.
Wow.
There you go. When an anonymous IP visits any site in the ecosystem, HubSpot identifies the visiting IP as a company using reverse IP, matches the visit with one or more research topics on the website, and that's what powers the research intent.
Right. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
Wonder what powers their job changes though. They've got to be.
Yeah, so that could be
LinkedIn or
interesting. And I guess that's possibly from other, like you discussed, from LinkedIn, etc. Because, okay, so on a company, on a contact record, it will pull the URL, the LinkedIn URL, when it's doing enrichment. So it'll have that. So it'll notice something obviously changing that must be signaling that happening. So,
nice.
yeah. So there you go, people. All right. What's next, Craig? HubSpot AI Marketplace. AI agents and assistants. So yes, so let's understand when we talk about AI, there's two kinds of things inside HubSpot. There's assistants and there are agents. Agents generally are doing a particular, what do I call it, a particular task or series of tasks and getting your result. An assistant is there to help you through the process. Like, think of it like ChatGPT, where you're asking it questions and you're getting feedback, or it's, being able to answer questions specifically to your business, because there's I think I saw an FAQ and a onboarding assistant possibly that you can utilize. So like you've said, assistants, you manually interact, agents can be called, and even the most exciting part, it can be called from an automation workflow to autonomously do things. So that's the exciting part about the agent. So Craig, what are some of the agents?
Yeah. I just think it's worth highlighting that the word agent means many things to many people. Even on the HubSpot Marketplace, it's got a drop down that says agent type, and you know what one of the entries under the agent type is? Agents, and the other type is assistants. So it's like, well, hang on, one of the agent type is assistant. Like, so I can understand why people are confused, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you've got it. Assistants, you basically chat with them. Agents, you set them up to be called autonomously, often with a bit of an input injection of like a company name, etc. But yeah, let's look at the HubSpot Marketplace for agents. And just the normal HubSpot Marketplace where you go for all the other integration bits, and even where you go for themes and things like that, they've got a section for Breeze agents.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of them, Craig. So we've already discussed, you would have heard us probably talk about customer agent. There's the data agent. There is
company
deal
research
loss agent.
Yep.
Yep, that's right. There's a video clip search agent now, which I've just discovered there in the screenshot. You've got a blog research agent. So there's lots, right? And they're rolling out. If you see a beta beside it, probably a good time to go try it because it does not consume credits. If it doesn't have that, it is consuming credits. So just be aware of that. It does take a little bit of time to set up, but well worth it to set up and actually test it out. And then it also has assistants. So like I was discussing earlier, there's an internal FAQ assistant. There's what else is there? Is there brand assistant? I haven't tried that one, Craig. There's a sales coach assistant, which is interesting. and there's an ICP assistant. So there's a few of them. You can create your own assistants within HubSpot as well. So just be aware of that.
I think these have been built almost, they're kind of like baby versions of when you'd have your own GPTs and things like that. So
Correct.
you'd chat with them.
Yes.
I've got this idea I want to walk about. And it's almost like just seeding the prompt for, you could be with ChatGPT and say, I want you to act like my sales coach.
Yes.
And use these things. That's what the assistant just primes it for that.
Actually, when you use install their agent and then you go in to set it up, you will actually see the prompt that is in there. And it's a good way to learn and see what's working and what's being asked of the agent or the assistant to give you what you need. So well worth looking at that.
Well, that's good because that brings us to custom agents. And I recommend this as the start. Pick one of the agents from the marketplace, install it, and that'll end up in your, what do they call it? Breeze Studio or whatever it is.
Yep.
End up there. You can then clone it or you can edit it and then save it as a new agent. And that's really the way to get started. And we'll often do that. We'll take we take the cross-sell agent. We've tweaked it, added our own prompts to it, and then called it our own, what do we call it? Customer upsell agent or something like that.
Yeah, you call it upsell, I think.
We've called it in our
Yeah.
own portal. So yeah, that's agents and yeah, as you said, assistants. Assistants end up in the Breeze Assistant that you take from the top menu. You can just switch between the Breeze Assistant and any of the assistants that you have configured. And then finally, I think it's worth calling out, there are a few of the agents in there that are kind of deeply integrated throughout the HubSpot platform. Customer agents, probably the best known, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but there's also data agent and prospecting agent. They are agents, but they've been more deeply integrated throughout.
Correct. And I'll probably add to that, Craig, the deal loss agent, I think is another one.
Right. Is that more deeply integrated? It still just looks across deals, doesn't it? It's more just a prompt.
No, it's actually more than a prompt.
Oh, okay.
So it actually, I've been using it a bit with different people. So we'll add that in anyway. So yeah, there is, and so just be aware that this is there, and not be afraid to try it out. All right, on to our work. Let's talk about AI and workflow automations this week. So AI and automation. So there are two main ways that you can use your agents in an automation. So you can automate a section within, you can use it from the configure section in an agent or from a workflow, right? So, and this is new. While we were doing this episode, I connected Claude to our portals. I went through the whole process. It's actually very interesting because I've been using Claude and connecting to HubSpot to query things, right? And now I was connecting Claude from HubSpot to go the other way to run workflow actions in Claude. So that was an interesting thing. And we'll come up with this. So Craig, do you want to just talk about some of the things you can do in the AI
let's just
action
talk
set?
about, in a workflow, there's actions. You trigger a workflow and then you can fire off actions. And over the last year, HubSpot's been adding to a list of AI-specific actions. So they've had things like infer company value proposition or an ICP, or research company news has been an AI action. Summarize a record, that's been an AI action. And then the one you mentioned, use a custom LLM. You can call, ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or whatever from an action within a workflow. We'll come back to calling a custom LLM, but the big unlock, the one that's really just rolled out recently, is run agent, the run agent action. And what it means is from a workflow, you can call any of those agents that you've installed from the HubSpot marketplace or that you've customized into your own custom agents. This is the big unlock, because previously we'd have to go into the agent, as you said earlier, go into the configure tab, then run a trigger in it, from the agent side. But now you just set it up in a workflow. This is much more the way to go. And this is a good example of something that I think should have been in HubSpot 6 months ago. This is what everyone was asking. When the HubSpot Marketplace rolled out, here's our marketplace for agents, the obvious question from everyone was, how do I call them from a workflow? Yeah. The answer was, you can't. Oh, that's odd. But now you can. And so it's good that we end on this kind of high for the year with running agents. And so what we've done in the show notes, I've actually walked through a complete scenario, which I'll get to
So
in a
this is
second.
a real life example.
Yeah, of calling an agent. But there was actually that data agent one is one that's often overlooked as well, Ian. You can call a data agent
Yes.
custom prompt.
Yes.
That's been available for a little while.
Correct.
And just one example of that, we actually just call that with a prompt to summarize playbooks. So whenever someone submits a playbook or logs a playbook against a contact or a company, we just summarize it with the data agent. But let's talk about running an agent as part of a workflow. Pretty easy to set up. We've got screenshots in the show notes or in our course in the HubShots community. You basically decide which agent you're going to call. Then you can input the tokens it needs, whether, let's say, in this example, I'm running it on a contact. I'm calling the customer upsell agent. So it needs to know which is the company. So you call the associated company record. You insert the company record ID into the agent action in the workflow. You save it. And then after you've saved that action, you just add another action in the workflow to add a note against the contact and simply pull the results from the agent run in the action before. It's very straightforward once you've set it up. And so here's an example. Again, this is all in the show notes with screenshots. We basically are just starting to create a repeating task against contacts that repeats every 3 months. And the task has a name of upsell in it. And when that's due, the due date for that task, that triggers a workflow that basically calls the action to run the customer upsell agent, analyzes the customer across all their notes and everything like that, emails, meeting recordings and transcriptions and all those notes, and then leaves a note against the contact. So then when I get the task, hey, it's time for the 3 monthly review of the client, it's propped there and it puts a full summary. I've got a full high-res version in the show notes as well. It even tells me the email I should be sending a client. We never use that. I'll just say that typical ChatGPT kind of email. I'd never use it, but it's good to have some suggestions. But the key thing about this that I find is that it often reminds me of previous topics, problems, and questions that have been raised and I've totally forgotten. This is the power of these kind of AI tools. They troll back through all the notes, all the meetings, all the call transcripts, and they pull out problems that were raised a while ago that everyone's forgotten about. And then you can highlight that in a call or with a update with the client and find out if it's priority or not. Sometimes these AI notes and that can be pretty long, so you can change your prompts to focus on brevity, etc. But that's a real kind of use case for how this can be used. You can imagine putting this in place for sales teams. Every 3 months, a task. Hey, time to talk about upsell, and it pre-fills with notes for you. So there you go. You'd be doing similar things, I'd imagine, Ian.
Correct, Craig. And before I continue on, I just want to tell people that this does consume credits. So just be aware when you are calling. But then I always come back to this, right? Yes, it is consuming credits, but how much time and value is it adding to the individual in the team, right? That you don't have to do that. You don't have to manually do that. And I think that's the big unlock here when we're talking to teams is that, hey, you can really focus on the really high value things and we can get the AI to do all of these pre-work items so that you're prepared really well when you're talking to a customer, right? And I think when you look at it from that perspective, like you can go, man, that's really amazing what you can actually achieve and get done. I think don't be afraid. A credit's a credit, right? Like you can buy more, you can do more, but I think where is that exponential thing that you can do with this, with workflows and AI actions in them? So I think I'd be thinking about that. And a good place to start would be thinking, even if you did one a month, Craig, can you imagine at the end of a year where you would be inside with what you're doing with HubSpot, you'd be in a very different place to where you are today.
Yeah. So when it comes to credits, I think this is worth highlighting. When it comes to credits, an action like this, like, is so valuable. And it's only 10 credits, I think. Like, it's
Correct.
not like it's showing up amounts of it. So when it comes to credits, you look at something like this, you go, this is a no-brainer. I am prepared for the call that I'm going to make here with a whole bunch of upsell pain points, reminders about things to, like, that makes it a very valuable conversation for your client.
Yeah, absolutely.
So a lot of value. But on the flip side of credits, the problem people have with credits is not things like this. Oh, it cost 10 credits. No problem. That's a no-brainer. The problem they have is what you alluded to earlier. I can't control it. I am not sure if it's suddenly going to run away from me. I need more guardrails to protect me from myself, to protect me from my lack of understanding on this incredibly complex platform that you've made over the last year, especially by rolling out tons of features that I don't understand, and then me falling into the trap of suddenly running a workflow that consumes all my credits or blows it out.
Yeah.
That's what people are afraid of. But the value, I think people get. So I really wish HubSpot had a better way to kind of, I don't know, guide you. You know, when you run into a workflow and you kick off or you change the criteria for a workflow and it suddenly pops up and says, hey, you're about to enroll 6,000 contacts.
Correct.
Do you want to just add them all or only from now on? Right? So we need a similar thing that pops up and says, hey, do you realize you're about to consume 20,000 credits?
Correct.
And you go, whoa, no, thank you for loading it. But there's none of that in place yet.
Correct. Kind of like the pre-checks before you enable something, right?
And that's the problem. The problem. And it's going to be a problem because people will get caught. There's going to be this pushback and anger and wariness, and they will miss out on all the value that they could have been getting just because they've gotten burnt.
All right, on to some of the CRM AI features, Craig. Now, because HubSpot's goal is to have a CRM that is updated, right? Where you don't have to update it, and that's really the key things. So smart properties is a great way to do that. Now, when this got released, no one had any idea how to use that. And I think we have just been playing around and working things out. And so two kind of things that we often use it for is like to have a smart property that pulls out pain points from call transcripts, or it might be to do some research. So for example, one that I shared earlier was you might want to go and look at a company website or their documents that says when their financial year is, and when they're likely to get money or when their new financial year starts. So you can have a conversation with them and see what needs to be done. So you can run a prompt to say, hey, go look at all the documents and figure out when that financial year is starting. So you can let me know and put that in a smart property. So that's one less thing you have to go and find out, which would have been manual work before, but now you don't have to do that. So they're two key things that you can utilize.
All right. Just when it comes to smart properties, this is confusing because let's say you add a smart property that does that. Look at call transcripts and pull out pain points.
Yeah.
So that's set as a property. And so you're thinking, well, what is that just going to automatically fill? I've got 20,000 contacts. Is that suddenly going to fill for 20,000 contacts? Because then you go, hang on, this consumes credits. What's going on? And this is the important thing to know. Basically, you have to manually say fill a smart property.
Yes.
And so there's a couple of ways you can do it individually on a record or in bulk. You can select, say, let's say you'd created a smart property on a company record. You can select the companies that you want, and then you're just going to go fill the smart properties, and it'll do it. And it'll consume credits for each of those. And you can automate it from Data Agent as well. But just for people to realize, because I even remember, didn't we talk about this on a show?
We did.
Earlier in the year, and I was totally confused. I was like, this smart property, and it was all in beta, and we're like, oh, well, at least we won't get charged. But that was it. And it turns out I didn't understand it properly. You actually have to manually trigger filling.
Yes. And so I think the thing to note here is the property is where the data is being stored, and the data agent is the one that's going and doing the fetching of the data for you. And that's where the credit usage takes place. It's not because you happen to have a smart property that you're getting charged. It's the data agent running to get the information.
Exactly right.
So, and it does vary. There are certain things on a company record and a contact record that it will and will not do. So you might go into you might start to create a property and you say, oh, I want the call transcript. And it needs to be on the, I think it's available on the company or the contact. I've forgotten
That's
which
right.
one
Yeah,
it's.
yeah.
And so then you're like, hang on, that option's not available. So you just need to be aware that depending on the object, so currently it only works on company and contact objects. And I'm sure smart properties will roll out to other things, but those are the only two things that they're working on at the minute. So
I'll be interested to see, because I don't think anyone I've come across uses this unless we've prompted them about it. It seems to
Correct.
be the great unknown.
Yes,
Smart properties. People are confused. They don't know how to use them.
correct.
And I can see why it confused me as well. By the way, how many smart properties can you have, Ian? Because I got confused about this as well. There is
As
a
many
limit.
as you like, right, Greg?
Yeah. There's a limit on things like calculated properties
Yes.
based
correct.
on your Hubs subscription. But smart properties, no limit, because they consume credits.
That's
HubSpot
right.
will happily go for
We'll
it.
happily let you create smart
Yeah.
properties. All right. Let's talk about our Service Hub AI item. And this is the customer agent. We discussed this is probably, it's funny that it started off in the service area and it's still under the service menu as we record this. But the customer agent is probably one of our most favorite agents within HubSpot. And so if you're thinking about utilizing it, you should be, because it is kind of like the AI chat flow within HubSpot that uses an LLM with all your data to answer questions. So I think it started out as just being a support resource. Now it can even do sales and do anything through that customer lifecycle. And what is actually very interesting in real life use here is that customers have picked up where the agent gets to a particular point, maybe can't answer a particular question. And if the handoff is done correctly, a couple of our customers have made sales from it, which has been really cool. But the big thing that I want to highlight to people is that the knowledge gaps that it highlights. And why is this important? I'll tell you why. Because you very quickly figure out how people are interacting with it. What are they asking it? What do we not answer? So this has led to many of our customers creating short answers, fixing outdated content on their site, answering questions that people are asking, and making a better experience for people. So I think with all of this, and I think I told you this last time, Craig, was like, instead of waiting, a lot of people have this fear of, oh, I don't have the information. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see what's going to happen. Most people have enough information if they actually feed it the right information. And it doesn't have to be website pages or have to be a knowledge. Like a lot of customers don't have knowledge bases that we help, but they have lots of information on their website. They have lots of information in documents. So we can feed all of that information to get what we need, right? And so I think don't wait. I would be one of those people that says, hey, use this, figure out where the gaps are, and keep iterating and building, because that's the power of this customer agent that we're running.
Totally agree. One of our favorites for the year, customer agent, keeps getting better.
And new things keep rolling out all the time with the way things get handed off, the information it can look and update. That's the other thing. So it can actually verify with the contact it's talking to via their email, and you can tell it, can it update certain properties? So if, like, for example, we don't have the company name and we want to figure out what company they work for, we can actually get that information and we give the agent authority to actually update that property. So those are the little things that are rolling out. And then there are other things which we haven't done where you could, like, this is the most common scenario. It's like, I could be talking to our agent and say, hey, I'm looking for my order. When is it going to be delivered? So if the system can connect via the API and collect the order information with an order number, you can say, oh yeah, it's going to be delivered on this particular day. So that's the other thing that you can do in the customer agent, which is quite exciting.
That's right. And logistics companies come to mind. I think they've integrated their logistic backend systems into customer agent and providing that beautiful experience.
So test the customer agent. That's my advice.
Yeah. And by the way, you can connect as a channel, for example, chatting with it or messaging or WhatsApp or even email. But they've added voice now as well. Is that beta, or I don't know if that's live?
It is a beta, Craig.
It's a beta, yeah.
Yeah, it's in beta. It sounds, now for us Aussies here, it sounds very American. But surprisingly, like I was testing with a customer of ours and I was surprised at the way it worked. So yeah, you know what? It's only going to get better. Like this is very exciting. What's going to happen? So test. It's like what we used to always say, right? Test and measure and see what's happening. And I think if that's more true even today than ever before.
All right. We're in the home stretch now, and we'll just talk about AI integrations. We've mainly talked about AI within HubSpot, but of course, and we did allude to this earlier, you can call your own tools from HubSpot. For example, ChatGPT or Claude, Gemini, you can call that from HubSpot. And you can also do the reverse. You can call HubSpot from your own AI tools. So first of all, if you're calling AI tools from within HubSpot, you're basically going to do that from workflow actions, as we alluded to earlier, and there's a bunch of LLM options in the HubSpot marketplace: Gemini, OpenAI, Anthropic, of course, even XAI on Twitter. I don't know well, Grok's pretty good, actually.
It is.
See how that's going.
Yeah.
And then
what's that other one that I've never heard of, Craig?
Yeah, I don't know what Cohere is, but
yeah,
there you go. And I'm sure there'll be others. I was surprised there wasn't Mistral and a few others in there as well, but I guess they're probably coming. And you've got a screenshot in here of, let's say you're calling Claude. You've got to choose the model. And I think the important thing to highlight here is you set this up in a workflow to call out to, whatever the external tool is.
Yes.
Claude
so,
in this case, but you're setting...
Yeah, so Claude in this instance.
Yeah, you're actually setting the model that it's going to use. And this creates a bit of a maintenance task because let's say they sunset a model. Remember ChatGPT just sunset a whole bunch of their earlier models? If that was in your workflow before, I don't know what's going to happen. I assume it just stopped working. So there's actually a maintenance overhead here because if you start using this in a bunch of workflows, then you want to update the model to something new. I think there's no auto way to do that at the moment. Like, I don't think in any of these models there's an option that says just use the most recent or the most advanced.
Yeah.
So there's a maintenance issue there. But what's been your experience with these, Ian? You found it a useful option?
I haven't fully tested it as yet. Yeah. I'm in the middle of testing, Craig, but I just discovered this and I was like, oh, hang on a second. Here's going to be some maintenance. But you know what? Just as everything gets better, I'm pretty sure that, use the latest model might turn up inside. Now, I guess even with that, and this is the caveat, right? Like I was doing something similar to this, but on the other side. And I happened to use a new model that rolled out in Claude. And I ran something, I think I was putting together a case study. And it chewed up all my credits for the day. And then I was like, at the end of the case study, after it'd done all the work, when I tried to refine it further using another prompt, it said, oh, you've run out of your credits for the day.
Sorry, credits, HubSpot credits or Claude?
No, Claude.
Claude, yeah.
Yeah. And so then I realized the model I ran was the latest, which happened to be the most expensive at the time.
Oh, of course.
And I did a bit of research and I'm like, oh, I just chewed all my credits in like a couple of prompts. I'm like, oh, okay. So it then made me aware of the different models, what it's good at, and etc. So I think like all of this, like you learn as you travel the road, right? You like you get to places and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or this is what I need to be aware of. And I think at no point would you ever figure that out by reading documentation. It's by playing with the tool that you actually figure that out. So definitely, I think what we're going to see is there's going to be lots of education that's going to need to be done and awareness around what's running. And I think regular reviews is the other thing that's going to have to take place within this.
I'm just glad that when it ran out of Claude credits, it didn't immediately bump you into another Claude tier and charge you more.
That's right.
All right. Well, the flip side of calling your tools from within HubSpot is calling HubSpot from your AI tools. So there's been the ChatGPT connector, the Claude, Gemini. There's a bunch of others that connect into HubSpot. ChatGPT, I think, was maybe 6 months ago, but I think the Gemini one was only recent.
Yes, it was.
So they are still pretty new. And this just means you can connect in, let's say ChatGPT, connect it so it's talking to HubSpot. You can from ChatGPT, or I know you do this from Claude, and you're calling into HubSpot for it to pull data out of HubSpot and for you to use. Now, I think the only comment we need to make here is where we started almost at the top of the show around privacy and governance.
Yes.
Because when you connect in, you only get access to what you can see, but quite often the people playing with these tools are super admins connecting them in. And if you share that ChatGPT instance, say with other team members, and that's been connected with your own security permissions, then they may get access to stuff they shouldn't be seeing simply because you have access to it. But on top of that, there's, well, if the tools pull out that data, what do they do with it? And you've got some points here about how they retain it. Ian?
Yeah, and so I put this in here, Craig, because we had a conversation with the enterprise customer and they were talking about what's the retention policy? Does it use my data to train the model? And so why I put this in the notes is just to be aware that a lot of they will all have policies. So in this case, we're just going to talk about OpenAI. And so they were saying, if you're on enterprise teams education plan, the data is not used for training consistent with their terms. But it does say if you're on a Pro or Pro Plus plan, which is a consumer tier, you have the option to opt out, which means that you're automatically opted in for model training on your ChatGPT settings. So, and it says it may not use it to improve connector. It'll use it to improve connector performance, etc., and retrieval accuracy. So just be aware of that. You might not want to do that. You might want to turn that off. And then it talks about its data retention practices. So just be aware of that. Like they've all got information. They've stipulated it pretty clearly. And I think this is really awareness piece around what's happening with your data. Mostly if you're enterprise, this is very critical.
And I think it's really important because lots of companies have sensitive data and they don't want it being sucked out into other systems.
Correct.
That makes sense. By the way, I'm glad to. I wonder if Facebook will ever allow their whatever their thing's called connect to other tools.
Meta AI.
Meta AI, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Because I would never connect anything from Facebook into HubSpot because no matter what they said, I would never trust Facebook. I'm sure you connect it and they would just suck everything they possibly could without your permission. Anyway, moving on.
All right. So various incremental tools. We've covered everything in HubSpot, but as we know, HubSpot is touching everything in AI. Every feature in HubSpot is being touched by AI. From segments to workflows, reports, even on views, Craig. Like it's pretty amazing in terms of what you can do, even on a view, and so on. So I think what you want to be doing is understanding, getting guidance, and just using things inside HubSpot, and just being aware what you can do because it just gets better.
I think you've got to keep playing with it and just expect the results to be underwhelming at first, but they will get better. For example, chatting earlier today, someone, they're not really sure, custom reports, it's all very confusing. So they just use the AI prompt. Hey, here's the kind of report I want. And it just created absolute rubbish, like just led them down a rabbit hole of frustration. And I'm like, I can see where they're trying to get to. Just prompt what you want the report to do and we'll work it out. Well, that's good if it does, and sometimes it does, but often it doesn't, and that's frustrating. Yep. So take it, what's the word? Set your expectations low for some of these things, but it's getting better, better.
Oh, actually, there's further reading. There is a McKinsey State of AI report if you're interested in learning or reading more about it. I think, Craig, you put a couple of articles about everyone in Seattle hates AI and HubSpot.
What's really funny, I know we're going off topic. And by the way, that's the show, folks, in terms of all the features. We've covered all that. We're just finishing off a few comments. But in Seattle, Microsoft and that, they're kind of forced to use these AI tools. And there's an article about Microsoft employees being forced to use Copilot and everything and prove that they're using AI tools and that. And if they're not, they'll often lose their jobs. And it's like, well, everyone hates AI because they're forced to use all this stuff that's not fully baked yet. So, listeners, if you're getting frustrated with AI, just realize that you have options, whereas many people kind of like their livelihood or their job depends on it. How frustrating would that be? Embrace where strategically beneficial is the summary.
If you do want to learn more, I encourage you to go. We've got a HubSpot AI course, which is modeled off this episode inside the HubShots community. Go there. Don't have to do everything. Choose the path that you're interested in. Implement one thing. That's my thing. What is the one thing you can implement? Craig and myself are in the community, and so a lot of the team, and so you'll be able to get some answers there. There are lots of great resources out there. So, but I think with the biggest thing with all of this is don't be afraid to test and measure what you're doing, and then keep iterating and making it better. I think that's really the tip. And talking about tips, if you have not signed up for the daily tip, now would be a good time to do so. And that is delivered every day into your inbox with one tip that will make a big difference to your HubSpot journey. So I encourage you to subscribe to that. And then you get it straight from Craig. And then you can reply. And if you've got any questions, let us know. We would be happy to help you out. And finally, the HubShots framework. If you're feeling overwhelmed with HubSpot, this is a good way to A, know where you are, and B, get on track. And you can utilize it, share with your team, print it on a big A3 paper, fill it out, and make it a living, breathing document. Any last words, Craig?
No, it's been a big episode. We've covered most of the AI features. There's plenty more that we could dive into in minute detail. We do have our updates that matter, of course, in the HubShots community as well, where Roslyn and other members of the team dig into very specific AI tools. So check that out as well.
Well, until next time, listeners, catch you later, Craig.
Catch you later, Ian.